Imagine a promise so intoxicating it ensnared kings and the smartest minds in a nation. This isn't a fairy tale, it's the true story of a financial madness in 18th century Britain, and taught the world a very painful lesson about the dangerous allure of easy money. Welcome to System Failure, where we unearth history's most expensive mistakes. Today, the South Sea Bubble, the original crash that coined the term bubble. Our story begins in London, 1700s. Britain, a rising power, was saddled with massive debt. Over £30 million, a staggering sum. This was a crisis, and the government needed an out. Enter the South Sea Company in 1711. Its promise? To trade with South America. The catch: South America was firmly under Spanish control, and Spain wasn't sharing. So the company's actual trade was minimal. A few ships, hardly worth the hype. No, the real purpose was much more creative and utterly dangerous. Its genius was in offering to take on Britain's enormous government debt. In exchange, the government promised exclusive trading rights, even if theoretical, and crucially annual payments from the government, effectively an annuity. This made the company's stock look incredibly safe. Steady income, backed by the state. People swapped their government bonds for South Sea Company shares. The goal was to consolidate all national debt under one giant, lucrative company. But here's where the fatal flaw, now the human element, enters the equation. The company directors weren't just taking on debt, they were hyping their stock. They spread rumors of immense wealth, painting pictures of gold and silver mines, even though they knew the reality was far, far different. In 1720, the company proposed to take on all remaining national debt. A bold, almost insane move. But the public was ready to believe. The idea was simple: convert debt into shares, creating Britain's largest company. They launched a massive campaign to convince bondholders to swap. And it worked. Oh, how it worked! The stock, starting the year at £128, began a meteoric rise. Directors hired agents to openly buy shares, inflating the price artificially. They even offered loans to people just to buy their own stock. The price climbed. £300, £400, then £500. The frenzy was building. People mortgaged homes and sold inheritances to invest every penny. They were desperate not to be left out of a guaranteed path to riches. By midsummer 1720, the stock smashed through the £1,000 mark. This wasn't just a market, it was a national obsession. Even Sir Isaac Newton, the man who mapped gravity, couldn't resist. He said, "I can calculate the motion of heavenly bodies, but not the madness of people." But the South Sea Company was just the lead actor in a much larger circus. Success breeds imitation. Soon, dozens of bubble companies sprouted. Some were for legitimate things like insurance or sailcloth. Others were, let's just say, highly questionable. There was a company to build a wheel for perpetual motion, a company for extracting silver from lead, and the most famous, an undertaking of great advantage, but nobody to know what it is. People stood in line to give money to a man who wouldn't say what the business did. Why? Because the system seemed to be generating infinite wealth. In Exchange Alley, the streets were so packed that traffic stopped. Lords sat next to chimney sweeps. Wealth was being democratized. The South Sea directors, meanwhile, were living like kings. But they had a problem. Small bubbles were stealing their investors' money. To protect their stock, they lobbied for the Bubble Act. This law banned all companies from selling shares without a royal charter. It was supposed to force money back into the South Sea Company. Instead, it caused a panic. Investors realized that if the small bubbles were worthless, perhaps the big bubble was too. The selling began slowly in August 1720. Then it became a landslide. By September, the stock price was in freefall. £800, £400. The directors who pumped the stock were the first to secretly sell. Trust, the only thing holding it together, evaporated in weeks. The British economy didn't just stumble, it stopped. Thousands lost everything. Suicides became common in the city. The dream of infinite wealth had turned into a national nightmare. By October 1720, the silence in Exchange Alley was deafening. Parliament, many of whom took bribes, were forced to act. They launched an inquiry known as the screws being turned. They discovered a green book, a secret ledger of bribes. The Chancellor, John Aislaby, was found guilty of infamous corruption. He was expelled and sent to the Tower of London. Directors' estates were confiscated to provide relief to victims. But for most, the money was simply gone, dissolved like the bubble it was. Curiously, the South Sea Company itself didn't vanish. It was restructured into a boring state-managed firm. It existed for another 130 years, finally closing in the 1850s. So, what is the lasting legacy of this system failure? It taught us that liquidity is a double-edged sword. It proved that when experts are paid to lie, the system breaks. We see echoes of 1720 in every modern financial disaster. Take the dot-com bubble of the late 90s. Companies with no profits were valued at billions. Like the South Sea, the advantage was a mystery. Or 2021 crypto, where monkey images sold for millions. Human psychology hasn't changed in 300 years. We are still susceptible to FOMO, the fear of missing out. We still want to believe in wealth created from thin air. But real wealth is built on production and value, not a rising line. This wasn't an accident. It was greed meeting a lack of transparency. As we look toward the future of our own systems, are we investing in value or just blowing bubbles? Because the law of financial gravity is undefeated. What goes up without a foundation must crash. Thanks for joining us for System Failure. To understand the cracks before they become chasms, subscribe.